I am logged in twice.
I see that.
Let me see where the other one's coming from. Or I'll just, how about if I leave and come back and see if they both leave with me?
Sounds good.
Okay. There we go. Much better.
When you left, I removed your other person.
Great, thank you. I think what it was when I first logged in, the meeting hadn't started yet, so I thought it was user error, so I just clicked it again. Luckily, there weren't like 15 of me from all the clicks I did.
No worries. Let's see. I will try to make you host now.
Okay.
All right. You should have all the power.
Beautiful. And I see it's being recorded to the cloud. Do you need me to do anything with that, or is it?
Nope, we will take care of it. We'll download it and then post it on the website. So if anybody wants to.
Do I need to save the chat or do anything else? No, just be there, do my thing. Okay.
Yep, thank you. And last week we had sessions where nobody showed up. I don't know if you've encountered that yet.
This is the first one. As of this morning, there were 8 registered. I've got a course starting tomorrow with 1 person registered, so I'm sure it'll happen.
Yep. We wait about 15 minutes, and if nobody shows up, then log off.
Okay, fair enough.
Any other questions?
I think I'm good. I can handle it from here. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to log off. Have fun.
I'll try my best. Thanks.
Bye.
Jamila, if you can, there we are. I think you can hear me. It says you're connecting to audio. I'll give it another second and then you and I can chat if that's all right. Still connecting. Patience is the name of the game in education right now. So I'm just going to wait till those three little dots stop moving and it says that you are connected. Hopefully we'll get there soon. Jamila, if you can see this at all, I'm going to send you a message. Jamila, if you can hear me, I just sent you a message in the chat. I can see your device is still trying to connect here, so give it another minute or two. Right now, it's just you and me, so maybe in the time that we're waiting for your device to connect, we'll get a couple more friends to join us. If you can hear me, if you want to are you able to turn your video on? Feel free. Just let me know if you can hear me. Okay, got your chat. Beautiful. Okay. So right now it's just you and me. So if you're okay giving it another minute or two. Last week we had a few of these sessions and nobody attended. We've also got quite a few where there's a handful of people. So we're just trying to grow this as we go. If you get some one-on-one tutorial tonight, amazing. I'm happy. You're happy. And it's a win-win. But if we get other people here, it will definitely help. Because the name of the game tonight is all about student collaboration. And the goal is for us to collaborate a little bit and kind of model some of the practices. So we'll give it another minute. If nobody joins us, then we'll just go through this together. Got it. Yeah, and I can hear you now too. So all is good. I can hear the background noise there. So all is good. So is Jamila, am I pronouncing that correctly? Is it Jamila?
Yes, you are correct.
Beautiful. Okay. And are you free to talk right now? Or are you in a workspace where you got to be hush hush?
Well, I brought my daughter to the doctor, so I'm finishing up with her. And then I was actually joining on because I knew I still had this on my calendar for the day.
No worries. Okay. Well, as long as you're okay with it, I don't mind having the doctors hear what we're talking about. Feel free to jump in and say what you need to say, or if it's easier to chat because the doctor's in the room where there's people around, I get it. No worries. Are you okay with us just going and kind of just having a one-on-one conversation?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm guessing you're probably on a phone or a tablet, or are you on a laptop of some sort?
I actually have a phablet, so literally my phone is almost the size of a tablet. But yes.
Outstanding. Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because this session is designed to be interactive. The goal, whenever I talk student collaboration, and there'll be a couple more of these sessions throughout the next couple of months, is to get people in the room actually collaborating as though they were students, walking through some of the exercises and activities, and then doing some reflection as we go, trying to connect the dots and think about how they can do similar activities with students in their schools and their districts and in their communities. So, Jamila, what kind of school are you in? Like what grade levels, and what is your responsibility? What is your role within that school?
I am actually a digital learning specialist at a district level, so I deal with elementary students.
Okay, look at you. You're doing all the things for all the people. Outstanding. Big district, little district. What size are we in?
82 schools, about 7,000 students.
Oh man, that is perfect. That's one of those districts where when you make one small change, it has a dramatic impact because everybody can just absorb it right away. That's amazing. That's my sweet spot as well. So just a little background on me, and then in a second I'll share the screen and let you see some. Actually, let me share the screen right now just so that you can see the stuff I'm going to be talking about, and then we'll go from there. So first of all, what do you need to know about tonight? Well, first of all, we're supposed to be here for about an hour, but it's gonna be down to about 40 minutes now. But that's all good. We'll fly through this, and hopefully you just take some nuggets. And I'm hoping that you can give me some ideas and suggestions as well. You know, I'm going to use this as a formative assessment, if you will, where I can use some of the things that you can tell me are needed so that we can roll this forward, especially in your role. You know a lot of the needs. You have people coming to you and saying, here's what I need. So feel free to jump in and give me some suggestions and some pointers as we go.
Will do.
Beautiful. So first, who am I? That is my personal contact information on there. I share that all the time because my goal is never to just have this be a 50-minute, 1 hour, 40-minute, whatever conversation, and then I move in and out. I love starting relationships and building on. I might turn and start to lean on you quite a bit in the coming months, weeks, years, whatever the case may be. Feel free to do the same thing for me. We can connect via social media, Twitter, Instagram, all the things, or feel free to shoot me a text at any time. Sometimes when we're in large groups, there are people that are uncomfortable sharing out loud or with the masses, or even in a chat, thinking that the chat might be downloaded. So at any time, shoot me a text. This is something that I'm honestly not sure where this recording is going to go. But if you would rather shoot me a text to ask questions or to provide context, I'm totally fine with that as well.
Okay.
You getting ready to get in a car?
Yep.
This is awesome.
Trust me, this is my life. Before COVID, we actually were pretty much campus. We dealt with our campuses, so we did a lot of training on the campuses. So we didn't actually have a solidified spot on just one campus. But thanks to COVID, we're more isolated in one area. And we have not been going out to campuses. We've actually been doing remote learning with the campuses, which is actually shown to be more productive.
Yeah.
Because as I say, for me, I have 6 campuses that I specifically support. One of them actually has 3 different umbrellas. So they're in 3 different locations.
Wow. Okay.
And then, So you can imagine me going from campus to campus to campus to campus,
Right.
and literally just to see one or two teachers at one campus, and then going to another campus to see maybe a grade level of teachers. I spent more time driving from one place to the other
Right.
instead of actually providing support. Well, now we've been able to demonstrate how much more productive we are being in one location and being able to video chat, provide a teacher instruction from afar, help them with something, maybe jump into one of their classes to see what the issues are that they're having with students and how to actually turn that around to create a more productive session with their
Yeah.
students and get them engaged than me running to the campus to actually sit in your class for 20 minutes for you to actually give instruction, for me to realize I can't understand nothing your class is saying because it's a bilingual classroom. And it's just like, I think I got maybe one or two words. I don't know.
Well, you know what? That I first of all, I love that mindset of how you're looking at it now and saying, you know, I don't want to say we're taking advantage of the pandemic, but we are taking advantage of the pandemic and realizing that there are different ways to do things that might actually be better. And
Yes.
I'm anticipating, just based off of what you said, that your hope is some of that can continue into the future as well. Even once this is a thing of the past, hopefully
Yes.
soon, that you are now showing new levels of efficiency, and that's amazing. That's really one of my goals too when I work with teachers and educators everywhere, is to really focus on those evergreen things, those things that will never die. I think
Right.
last March, April, May, there were a lot of us that were just trying to stick our finger in the dam and keep the waters at bay, looking for those quick wins. And now we're at that place where we can really say, how can we transform what we've always done to truly make things better and to take advantage of this moment in time? And you just talked about one of them. You were
Yes.
able to eliminate the barrier that oftentimes people at the building level had, thinking, there's no way I can get support remotely. I need you here to come see what I'm dealing with. And now it's the norm. And when you walk into somebody's room, they're like, get away, just
Yeah.
zoom in, right?
And it's like we've had to fight because my role has transitioned in several different ways. We went from the campus technology support person to a kind of instructional coach, but still technology. So within the past 6 years, people have seen us, oh, as my Promethean board's not working. Oh, can you help me connect to this printer? Oh, my computer's not working. So now it's more of a, oh, I can't actually do something in Schoology. Let me contact Ms. Brown.
Okay.
So we've kind of gotten them to the point of knowing, no, I'm not here to fix anything for you. I don't even have the power to do that anymore. But I can actually help you provide an instructional level to your students to actually engage them with the technology that you're now having to use. We tried to push it before, but it was like, no, we don't want to do that. My kids are right here. I don't need the technology. Yeah, you do. For some of your kids, they're looking at you like, wah, wah,
Yes.
wah, wah, wah,
Right.
wah, wah.
I love that. I love that. And truly, I feel like what you just did, if this gets recorded and if it gets put anywhere, what you just did was you provided so much context that if that didn't hook people in to say, this is a conversation we need to be having, we need to figure out how to engage students like we might have never been able to do before, so that we can avoid those Charlie Brown teachers moments or the Ferris Bueller moments. Our
Yes.
goal really needs to be to tap into students so that we can get access to their voice, allow them to speak up, so we can become facilitators, not just sages on the stage, and really activate learning. So yes, you just preached it. And I'm just going to sit back and say, Jamila, you take the reins here. Tell them
My
what you
thing
want to
is,
say.
I'm actually trying to really begin to look at this from a different light because my background is actually special education. So I'm looking at our gifted and our special ed students and our twice exceptional students, trying to figure out how does this really engage them, because our population right now, and I hate to say it, 40 to 50% of them are failing in this model with the online learning because it's a lot of work. And to me, sometimes they say a little instruction. So instead of us feeling like we can actually really engage them in the instructional piece and then give them little assignments, then bring them back. It's like the things they used to do in the classroom, they still haven't figured out how to do online and virtually.
Right.
But for that particular population of learners, it was always you had to do extra to bring them in. But now they're still being left out and left to the side.
Yeah, you're hitting so many powerful conversation points that I feel like you're opening up Pandora's box, and I want to go down that path with you. So connect with me when this is done, because I want to pick your brain.
Okay.
I was talking to another educator from Texas last week who gave me a similar statistic. In their district, 40% of the students had at least one failing grade. And it was a great conversation about what does that failing grade represent? Does it represent that the student is not at mastery, or that they're not being compliant in the tasks that are being given? And
That is it.
they tended to to lean towards the latter, which is also, it's another opportunity. When we see some of those statistics, we can say, okay, so this is an opportunity for us to leverage that to do something different.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is, are we really even breaking that down to look to see where the gap is falling? Is it really compliance? Because we looked at how many of our students are literally not even getting online to actually do the assignment. They're clicking on just to get the attendance, but they're not participating in the assignments. So, okay, compliance, because you started out with saying, okay, if you log into Schoology, then we give you attendance for the day.
Right.
So now we need to change the verbiage to know it's not an attendance portion, because you can attend all day long, but it's just like when you came to class, if you did nothing, you got nothing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're driving right now, so I don't want you to look at the screen. I'll be your eyes and your ears right now. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about some of the stuff that I want to unpack, because what you just described is so powerful. This idea of compliance versus compulsion versus collaboration versus truly the purpose behind being in school. And, they're in Texas. I know that there's a big push for kids to be in school. There's a push everywhere for kids to be in school. And
and I'm not liking the push because
right. And I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to pick a side. I'm not going to be red or blue. I'm not going there. But we know that there is a drive, there is a push for kids to be in school. There's this there are people that are saying kids are missing out on something. And whether or not they need to be in school or not in school face to face for that, I think collectively, probably unanimously, we would say that there are kids that are missing out on connections. They are missing out on the opportunities to collaborate, to grow together, to share, to practice communication skills. Whether or not that has to be in person or whether or not that can be done online, that's a whole nother conversation, but they are missing out on it. And that is something that we need to try to address, whether it's face-to-face or online. So on the screen, I've got a question. I'm just curious if you have an answer to this question. Let me read it to you. Don't look. You look at that road. I'm watching your eyes. The question: what is the difference between collaboration and cheating?
Okay, collaboration to me is where we've actually had the ability to communicate, dive into a conversation about something, and then bring that information back. Cheating, I'm gonna wait for you to post the answer, and then I'm gonna say the exact same thing that you said.
So, okay, do you have a social media account? Are you on Twitter or anything like that?
Yes.
Do you ever retweet somebody?
Yeah.
Is retweeting cheating?
To me, retweeting is not necessarily cheating if you're trying to actually push their information out to an additional audience, because maybe you follow different people than them. But then usually when I retweet, I'm trying to add something to that conversation.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. And the reason I ask that question is because when we're talking about collaboration with students, I think oftentimes collaboration is something that is scary for teachers because they're afraid they don't necessarily understand that there's a difference between collaboration and cheating. They don't want to put students working together because they're afraid one person will do all the work and one person is going to take the credit. How do you figure out who did what? How do you measure student A versus student B? The bottom line is there is a distinct difference. And I think it's up to each person to come up with their own definition. I appreciate your definition. My definition is very similar to yours. It deals with permission. Really, in my mind, the only difference between collaboration and cheating is in one realm, permission was given, and the other, it wasn't. Ultimately, it's all about the exchange of ideas, getting people together to exchange ideas. And what we need to do in our classrooms, in our schools, virtually or face-to-face, in a hybrid model, whatever it looks like, is give kids permission to share ideas so that it's not all on us. I think right now teachers are so overwhelmed They're exhausted because they feel like it's their responsibility to be the purveyors of all information. They are the gatekeepers of knowledge, as opposed to allowing students to sit down and collaborate and grow together. If ultimately, at the end of the year, students are learning and growing, it shouldn't matter whether or not it was you that taught them, me that taught them, or the student next to them that taught them. We need to get
Correct.
kids together to grow. Give them that permission. And when we give them
And I
permission,
love that. I
yeah,
love
right.
that because I've actually seen it where I've had, kids in the classroom when I was actually in the classroom. And even with teaching special ed, it was more or less giving them the opportunity to actually have a conversation. Yes, they still needed guidance on what the conversation was going to be about, but I didn't need to be the one that actually manned the conversation.
That's it.
It's like, guys, you have an opinion about this. I want to hear what it is. There's no right or wrong, and giving them the opportunity to just speak.
That's it. I mean, if you just think about how this conversation with you and I started, I don't know if you could hear me or not when I was talking to you and saying, it's saying your audio is connecting. If you get a chance to go back and watch this for 5 minutes, I kept saying, it's saying your audio is connecting. I'm going to wait for you, because I knew that I could have started and I could have just talked. I could have shared for an hour straight, but that's boring. Nobody wants to hear Schmitto speak for an hour. Trust me. It's the conversation. It's the exchange of voices. It's you being able to speak back that says something. And that's what we need to try to amplify. On the screen, I've got another quote. I'll read it to you. I'm being a bad presenter by reading it to you, but I'm also keeping you safe. So the questions are, number one, why does student voice matter? But then I've got a statement that says, we've been muting kids long before Zoom was invented. The question is, why? Why do we mute kids, whether it's online or face-to-face? Why do we do it? As teachers and educators, I was guilty of this. I was a classroom teacher for almost a decade. I was a school principal for a decade, an assistant superintendent. I was guilty of muting kids before I heard of Google Meets and WebEx and Zoom and all of the things. I muted kids in my own classroom. I've got 4 kids at home and I mute them all the time.
Yeah.
Why?
And I think a lot of it, you said, as sometimes it's fear about what are they going to say.
Yes.
And I can say I have a middle one that the majority of his teachers would always tell me, well, he can't sit still, or he's constantly blurting out things. And I'm like, okay, are the things anything related to what you're doing? But then he had one teacher that told me, oh my God, this guy is brilliant. I enjoy the conversations that I have. And he's like, sometimes we will sit in class and have conversations and forget there are other kids there.
Yes.
And it's just like, how can you see that?
Yeah.
But the other ones can't.
I love the idea when you said it was fear. And it is truly fear. I think oftentimes we find ourselves guilty of teaching, educating, working from that deficit mentality and this fear mentality of what could go wrong as opposed to what could go right. You know, when we're grading papers, oftentimes we're looking at how many questions a student got wrong as opposed to how many questions did they get right.
Yeah, right.
When we're looking at students, we're always focused on what deficits do they have so that we can fix, as opposed to what strengths do they have that I can grow. When we're starting to talk about collaboration and voice, it's about truly identifying the strengths of students and putting them in those situations to capitalize on it. Just like as adults, we hope that those that we work with see our giftings and our strengths so they can capitalize on those and put us in situations where we can grow and blossom. I don't want to work for somebody who's constantly trying to fix me. I don't want to work for somebody who's constantly coming up to me and saying, Schmitto, here's your area of deficit. Here's your area of need. We've got to iron some things out. That's deflating. It's depressing. I want to work with somebody that allows me to work within my skill sets and my gifts. And when we talk about student voice, when we talk about collaboration, there's a lot of different formats for me. Informal is what we're talking about right now, is just putting people together to have conversations. But you can also use student voice in a formal way to assess and evaluate and figure out what kids know. And by student voice, by collaboration, we don't just mean talking. And that is a fear, is that we think when you unmute a kid, they have to talk. No. There's a lot of, just on this little platform we're doing right now, before your audio is connecting, when you were sitting in the doctor's office, we were still communicating. You had a voice. You were putting some stuff in the chat to me. I told you could text me. I told you could reach out to me on social media. Those are all avenues to increase your voice. And in this little make-believe situation you and I are in, if I'm the teacher and you're the student, I've given you voice. I've given you the power to, metaphorically and literally, drive the car where you want it to go. That's what we need to start doing with kids, to start giving them the power to have voice. So
the funny thing is, I try to do that. We actually, as my little team, we build a lot of courses for the district. And one of the courses that was very tedious for me, we actually just finished earlier this week. And I tried to do that with some of the questionings that I did for my teachers that were trying to get DT certified. And it was like, okay, I want you to give me a response, but it's not limited to just, a 3-sentence response.
Yes.
Use the video, you know, find another way to communicate, because we're trying to show them, how do you actually get your kids to do this if you never do it?
So spot on. So spot on. Yes, yes, and yes. And again, you're driving, so don't do this. I'm saying this just for the benefit of anybody that might see this down the road. If you were to look at your screen right now, you would notice there's a bit.ly, there's a little short URL there and a QR code. And what you just said, I swear it's almost like you're the plant in this. And I called you up and said, can you just join so I have somebody to talk to? Because you knew exactly where I was going to go. On the screen, if you were to click the QR code, if you were to take a picture of it, or if you were to go to that little bit.ly, you would go to, let me see if I can get us to exactly what it would look like. Let me go back. It would take you to another site that I'm sure you've seen before. I'm sure you've utilized before. You've done lots of professional learning with people. You've had the opportunity to share cool tools and tricks with people. This is not groundbreaking. It's just sharing other ways to get student voice and choice in. Padlet, there you go. Padlet's a super simple tool, right? Padlet's a tool that educators, literally millions of educators across the country use, but we often forget about it. We think about it as in terms of like a graphic organizer or just a way for us to communicate and share. This is a great way to help students have voice, to collaborate with each other. And you can do this in 1,000 different ways. So for example, I have a question on here, and the question is, why should someone move to Texas? What I didn't tell you is I live in Michigan right now. Let me just tell you, in Michigan right now, it is -3 outside. I got a foot of snow on, right? I got a foot of snow on the ground, and the sun is almost down already. I see you driving around right now. You're just smiling. The sun is in your eyes, loving life. So imagine now that we had a whole class here, and
-3.
and we were studying geography or civics. And I asked the question, why should someone move to Texas? And I asked students to use Padlet to respond to that. You can imagine 30 kids with 30 different little sticky notes all over the board here.
Yep.
And that's one way to utilize this to try to get student voice. But simply having students passively share their answers is just simply the first step.
And my thing is even opening it up further and inviting them to go grab an image, grab some information to actually drop on the Padlet. I don't care. Go to the Weather Channel, actually take a snippet of it and drop it in.
Yes.
What do you think it looks like in Texas right now?
Yes, absolutely. It's all about increasing the communication. I mean, the way that we communicate and collaborate in the real world is through images and videos nowadays. Do you know that 70% of what's posted on Facebook is an image or a movie nowadays? That is how we communicate with each other. How often do you respond to somebody via text with emojis or with a GIF or GIF, depending on exactly, because that is how we are beginning to communicate. And I know there are people that would say, well, that's not right. That's not proper. Well, what's right and what's proper is increasing students' knowledge and depth of understanding. If this was a spelling test, a grammar test, got it, different animal. But if we're trying to get students to communicate, that's something else you can do. Absolutely. Something else you can do within Padlet, and I'm sure you're aware of this too, but for the benefit of those that aren't familiar with the tool, on comments, on people's posts, you can comment on their post, just like you would on Twitter or Instagram. You can actually comment. A student could say, I agree, I disagree, or have you ever thought about, or what's the weather like in, what about, are you a Dallas Cowboys fan or a Houston Texans fan? Better sports teams. I mean, you could have so many different conversations in Padlet where students are quiet, but amplifying their voice. You can have students.
And the thing is, if we don't actually ever give them the opportunity to experience that, is what my fear is. Even with doing things virtually right now, how often are you giving your students a chance to just communicate with others instead of telling somebody, oh, make sure you mute your mic?
Right. So what if you had an opportunity like this and you ask the question, why should someone move to Texas? And you say, I want everybody to go on the Padlet real quick, and I want you to just give me your thoughts. Give me 2 reasons why someone should move to Texas. And then you give them another 2 minutes to go back and read everybody else's choices, another 2 minutes to comment on a couple of them. And then they have to go and they rate the responses. And you can give like a 5-star review, a 2-star review, rate the responses. And then you bring people together again, and then you have a conversation. You've now increased student voice. Every single student's been vested in this. You can have students comment on somebody else's. So if they're fearful of sharing their own responses, they have a speaking platform. They're simply reflecting on what somebody else wrote. And again, you mentioned it doesn't all have to be text. You can have pictures and images and so many other things. A simple tool that is 100% free for people to use, right? It's if people aren't using Padlet, start using Padlet. Microsoft, Google, I don't care what you got. Go to Padlet because it works. It's an awesome opportunity. How else would you see somebody using Padlet in their classroom? What other classes or thoughts or ideas do you have?
Well, we've actually definitely used it for that collaboration piece to get them to actually give feedback, to draw more information out of them, because sometimes we have sessions because we're trying to now do it for the district and we hate it, but just because we have to reach more people, we're doing almost like a YouTube. So it's the live video.
Yeah.
So we don't have actual people in the session, but then we have a Padlet so that they can actually give us feedback, because we can't communicate directly with them to know your thought process. What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What do you have aha moments about?
Right.
So even just giving a student the ability to say, I learned something today and I want to know more.
Yeah, so good. You know, I've seen administrators use Padlet and they've set it to anonymous, and they have prompts or questions for their teachers, so that teachers are communicating and collaborating and sharing their thoughts without having to attend another staff meeting. Maybe they have questions about a dress code and they want to know what teachers think about the dress code. I've seen teachers send home weekly updates to parents using Padlet, and allowing parents to then respond back to increase communication. Again, this is an opportunity for all schools to really take advantage of this situation. If your school district's anything like where my kids go to school, parent-teacher conferences, not necessarily the best turnouts. You get a certain group of parents that show up, and it's typically the ones that don't need to be there. But if you were to create a Padlet and have some sort of inner dialogue, have individual students create portfolios of their work to share with moms and dads, have moms and dads respond back, parent-teacher conferences go to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I've done that in a different way with a QR code.
Yep. And
so I've actually done that with some of my students before, where we've actually, had them put some things into, like when we were using Flipgrid, and I actually have them take that and make it a mixtape. They can actually then.
Are you looking at the screen right now?
I am now.
Look at you. You're saying I make a QR code and Flipgrid. Jamila, I swear, you saw my slide deck.
No, I didn't.
No, but that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And again, I know all about this, but for the benefit of those that don't, how about you walk us through what Flipgrid is? And I'll stop. I'll take people to Flipgrid, but you tell people, what is Flipgrid? People that have never heard of it before.
Flipgrid is a way for you to give anybody, and not just a student, but anybody, a voice. So giving them an opportunity to respond to something, whether you're actually giving, a clip of a video, or you give them a prompt, anything. And as you said, my thing is, I like to, at the end of the year or middle of the year, I can actually have my students take a combination of everything that they've done in Flipgrid, and they can then put it into some type of, whether it was a face-to-face parent-teacher conference, they have all these little images of QR codes on their desk where the parent can just kind of flip through them to see what their kids have been doing. Or we can send it out electronically so they can actually experience what they were actually doing. Yes. But for teachers, it was just awesome just to get responses. But for them, it's almost like pulling teeth.
Like,
I need you all to speak, because if you can't do this, how do you train others to use it and do it?
Exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. Flipgrid is this amazing tool that allows you to capture voice and video of somebody on the other side in this asynchronous world. And asynchronous now is something everybody understands what that means. They don't have to be engaged with you like we are face to face. You simply give people some directions, send them a link, and then they can record videos. You can set the length 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. So they have to be short and sweet and concise, and the video just gets shared, and you can go back and you can watch their videos. You can also, when you're watching their videos, you can put them up to 2 and 3 times speed. So teachers that maybe you're an elementary teacher and you're used to collaborate or conferencing with all of your students in reading groups or math groups. There's something you can do when you're in brick and mortar face-to-face instruction too. Have students sit at their desks with a Chromebook or an iPad, record a video of their thoughts, and then you can go back and watch them at home 3 times the speed and knock those suckers out and give them feedback and comments on them like nothing else. Or have your class share and collaborate collectively. Yeah, absolutely. So this example I was going to ask if you were available and if we had a full group to sit around and think, what are 5 things that all students need to know in school? What are 5 things all students need to learn? And then I was going to have each person create a 90-second video explaining their thoughts. Again, now think about how that plays out in a classroom. If this was professional learning and we were all in an auditorium and I asked people to share their top 5, what ends up happening? You get 5 people that raise their hand and say, I've got something, and then everybody else is quiet because they don't want to upset somebody else. They might agree or they might disagree, or there's already 5 hands up, so I'm not going to share. But you ask a question like this and you say, I need everybody to share a video. Every single person has now shared their voice.
Yep.
Every single person had the opportunity to share something first. Then you get
And
people time
nothing's
to go.
wrong.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
whatever your top 5 are does not mean that, degrades the next person's top 5.
Yes, absolutely. And then you can go back and then you can listen to everybody else. You can hear from your friends. You can comment on your friends. And again, with Flipgrid, there's also other cool ways that you can allow kids to have voice. Again, more than just words. You can have people put their own personalities on this, their own flair. They can put their frames on it. They can.
Yeah, my kids love
emojis.
that portion. Even when I'm training teachers, and I do one particular teacher, I just recently did her class. She's like, you did this with my class last year. Can you actually get on? I was like, for one, I'm gonna tell you, don't give me a 2-minute, time frame to do this. But sure, I'll do it. So, we just, put something together. But yeah, I told the kids, and I always tell them, okay, you have a limit of 2 stickers.
Yeah.
You cannot spend 30 minutes doing avatars and stickers and all. 2. That's it.
Right.
I want you to have a personality with it, but not overboard.
Exactly. I've had teachers equate students' personalities on Flipgrid to a dress code. You've got to have limits. I want to see who you are. I want to see it represented with an avatar or some stickers. Yes. But we got to have some rules just so that we cover the bases. Like with my own kids at home, you can wear what you want to wear. You got 2 minutes to pick it out and then we're leaving. But you got 2 minutes. Same thing with Flipgrid. You got 2 minutes to figure out what's going to go on your Flipgrid and 2 minutes to make your Flipgrid. Then let's crank it out. Let's see what you got and have a conversation. But again, all about
one thing that's great about Flipgrid, even with the additional tools that they've added in there, they can actually, I use it a lot with my daughter, and I tell her, okay, look, you're writing a paper. You have an ability to actually type it out before you speak it. So that, guess what? If you have to give this speech, because eventually you're going to have to present this.
Yeah.
So type out what you're going to say, then actually record it and see how it sounds to you.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
Because if you can actually listen to yourself, and you're like, ooh, that didn't sound right. Okay, so where do you need to go back and edit what you wrote?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There you go. So you're giving the student their own voice. Sometimes hearing your own voice in your own head is all you need.
Yep. And that's even with like the Google Docs and even the Word. They have the ability to do text to speech. And guess what? I need you to listen to yourself.
Yes.
Turn on the audio so it can read it back to you.
Yeah.
Can you do some self-correction in that? Because when you actually listen to it, talking about some, then is that what you actually meant to say? Did that actual sentence sound correct to you? Did you use the word to be too much in there?
You're hitting on something I think is powerful as well, that in a lot of teachers' classrooms, going back to the brick and mortar days, those olden days when kids used to actually be sitting in our classrooms, there was a lot of teachers that would have students give speeches or presentations in front of the class. And part of that reason was we wanted students to just get comfortable with speaking in front of their peers. But there were always those kids that would have some of that stage fright and they would add the ums and the ahs just because they're nervous, not because they don't necessarily know their content or they don't know their stuff, but simply out of fear. Imagine how many barriers get broken down if you allow a student to now present or share in a way like this, where they can edit, delete. That's how it works in the real world. when we're making videos, we're editing, we're deleting, we're starting over again, right? That's the way it's
Correct.
done now. So if it's all about amplifying voice and allowing students to collaborate and share, give them the same tools that we use in the real world. Don't put them up in artificial environments and say, you now have to speak in front of 30 of your peers. We don't do that. We don't do that. So set them up so they can truly collaborate and get feedback from each other or from themselves, right? So good.
Yep.
So in your district, Jamila, are you a Zoom district? Are you WebEx, Google Meet?
We are a Google Meets.
A Google Meet class.
Mhm.
Okay. So in Google Meet, every platform has its own pros, cons, lots of good things that can work. Do you utilize, do you know of any teachers that utilize polls or internal chats within within Google Meets, or is it for video conferencing like this?
I will say only because we have just recently turned on the enterprise edition of Google Meets,
Okay.
and it has not rolled out to everyone. So not
Okay.
everybody has the features of the breakout rooms and the
Gotcha.
chats and the polls. They all have a chat, but they found it difficult to manage sometimes. And I
Sure.
tell them I understand. Unfortunately, we don't know the rollout process to be able to tell them, oh, well, in another week, you're going to get this feature. It's just like maybe tomorrow you'll wake up and it's there. Maybe it'll be in a month.
Yeah.
But we've also been providing them with other tools like, the whiteboard FI and some things like that, so they can still have students collaborate on things.
Yeah.
When they're actually teaching, so that it's not me just learning in isolation. I'm looking at you, yeah, but I don't have anybody else's information to really compare with or see if I'm even on the right track. And a lot of things with being a student is I need collaboration with somebody to know, am I even going down the right street?
Oh my gosh. You are so good. So good, so smart, so powerful. Can I share my screen again? And you don't have to do this activity. I just want to share my screen so you can see where my mind is going. And I don't know if I'm just planting some seeds and you are just grabbing them and running with them, or if we're just so in sync. Like I'll be Justin Timberlake, you can be Lance Bass, and we'll be in sync together. If that's okay with you, because we're just going to go on the road together and just do this thing, because you are spot on. I love what you just said about how students need to be able to sometimes collaborate and just see what other people are doing to align their thinking. And, I asked the question about Google Meet versus WebEx versus Zoom, because I've had a lot of teachers say, I would do that, but my district hasn't turned that on, or I would do that, but I can't because I don't understand the system, or I would, but I'm not a Zoom district, I'm a Google Meet district. Regardless of what platform you're in, you can do these things if you are creative. So for example, on the screen, there's a question here, and what I'll walk you through the question, but then the conversation afterwards would be that I'm going to ask is, how could this look in a classroom setting based off of content specific questioning? And I'm going to weigh the pros and cons between using a poll, using a chat, using, there's lots of different tools that if there were more time, I could show you lots of different tools to poll kids, whether or not you're Google Meet or Zoom or whatever.
Right.
But imagine that I asked you this question, and you don't have to answer this because I don't want you to get yourself in trouble right now. And I could answer this for you. But if I were to ask you where you are on this continuum from traditional to progressive to innovative, in terms of educational philosophy, educational skill sets, technology, and I asked you to give me your result and just put it in the chat. And so everybody can see your results and everybody can see what you're typing. And I asked you to put your answer in the chat. Jamila, do you think if we had 30 other educators with us, do you think I would see a lot of ones put in the chat? Whether people are or not, would they put a 1 in the chat?
I'm hoping at this day and age, they would not.
Okay. What if somebody truly felt like they were traditional and they were scared to death of computers and they're not even sure how they logged into this meeting tonight? It was just like a gift of God that it happened. Do you think they would still be inclined to put a 1?
They may go with a 2, but yeah, some people would still, because I still have teachers that, they still feel like, I won't do that, or unless you're actually going to be with me when I do that, because I still don't understand how that works. I still don't know how to do that. I'm not comfortable with doing that with my kids yet. And I've always told teachers, don't be afraid of this technology. call me.
Right.
Let me actually be the one that guides the technology in the class. You have the foundational skills that the kids need. Let me play with the technology to get them where you can actually pull it from them.
So yeah, so let's play this out real quick, because I love your rationale on how there is some of that fear of judgments, right? That's kind of what you're describing, is that what are people going to think about me if I really am a one and I write a one? And you put a response in the chat. I'm not going to say it out loud, but it was not a one, it was not a two, it was a pretty big number here. If I were in a space with you and somebody asked us both that question, and it was just the two of us, and I saw you put down your number, you know what I'm going to do if I see your number first? I'm putting down a number that's very close to yours or better, right? Yeah, absolutely. The same thing would happen in a classroom with kids. If we asked them a question, we wanted to know their thoughts on some sort of progression, and we said, give me your number, and we see other people giving answers, or maybe it was even a math problem, and we say, put your answer in the chat. And I see somebody else put an answer down that I'm not quite sure is right or wrong, but ooh, they're smarter than me, or the teacher likes them. I'm putting down their answer. Now, the chat is a great feature. It's cool for communicating and sharing, but at times, because of the lack of anonymity, it causes some of this comparison, even if it's internal comparison. That's not true collaboration. It's now competition, which is a little bit different.
I know the chat features inside of Zoom and Google Meets, once they have the Enterprise Edition, because we've used it with teachers just to demonstrate what it's going to be. They can actually hide that information until everybody has responded. And then it will create a graph to show the students without showing them who said what.
There you
go.
So
then I can actually then address it and actually even go further with that. And I can group my students. And a lot of times I tell teachers, stop they have this thing of, they'll always bring it back to me. Well, when I was in school, we did the red birds and the black birds. I was like, okay, remember, I'm from Illinois, so I have no idea what you're talking about. That means nothing to me. So your grouping strategies doesn't mean anything, but think about it. You have a classroom of special ed, regular ed, dyslexic, gifted, all of these students that are in one classroom. I am not going to learn from somebody that's on my level. I need somebody that's going to pull me up to their level. So I tell them, don't necessarily make your gifted student your classroom tutor, but pair them with other students so that they can actually, because believe it or not, they have some lags too, but let them actually experience everyone. And that's with all of your collaborative groups, mix them up. Don't keep them stagnant because this is my best friend. I want to be in a group with her forever. No.
It goes back to the grounding question that I asked you when we first started. What is the difference between collaboration and cheating? And we both had very similar definitions of that. And basically it's permission, it's a unified goal, it's everybody progressing forward, as opposed to a simply give me, and a taking without permission. If we have authentic and real information, and we allow students to have their voice, and we allow for it to be a safe space without judgment. There's no point in having students share their voice if you're just going to judge and condemn and tell them they're wrong when they're talking. If we want to increase student voice and collaboration, we have to be free to allow that voice and that collaboration to take its form, so that we can then know where to, I'm going to use a hated word right now, so we can learn where to pivot, where we can learn to adjust, and how we can make our next instructional decisions, whether that means grouping the red birds or the blackbirds together, whether that means putting heterogeneous groups together where you have strong and deficient, or advanced and struggling, whatever your groupings might look like. You can only do that if you have accurate information. And if you truly want kids to truly collaborate together. And this is the moral of the story, is there are thousands of ways to unmute kids, thousands of ways to get kids talking, sharing, and growing, so that we as the educators can play facilitator. It's not, like I said, it's not about us just giving the answers. It's about us standing beside kids so that they can learn how to share and be team players and have all of those soft skills that have become the hard skills for kids, because we haven't taught them and we haven't shown them. That's what it's all about. When you were hired for your job, I'm going to put you on the spot, but I doubt they came and they looked up your IQ score. I doubt they asked you for your SAT and ACT scores. They wanted to know if you're a team player, if you're a collaborator, how you're going to work well with others. That's the stuff that matters. And if, as educators, our job is to set kids up for life, guess what we got to do? set them up for life, right?
Yep. We
So-
talk about it all the time, talk about some in the real world. Okay, well then why don't you do what they're going to do in the real world?
Boom.
Because you can't always tell them, well, in the real world, you're not going to be able to do this. Okay, so let's just change our mindsets. Let's make everything that we're doing right now in this classroom setting, make it a real world type of situation.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
they're going to have to collaborate with their neighbor. I don't care that you and Johnny don't get along. Guess what? This project requires that you all come together with your minds to actually produce a product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are we going to starve because you all can't figure out how to grow an orange? Just because you don't like each other. It's like,
Bam.
yeah. So it's that point now where let's actually get over whatever it is, put everything out to the side. But inside of these walls, we need to be able to collaborate, communicate, so that we can actually move these kids to another level so that when they walk out, they're not fearful about walking up to somebody and actually voicing an opinion.
Yeah. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it. Jamila, you are, first of all, you're amazing. Absolutely
Thank you.
amazing. Super impressed. When I was sitting here all alone thinking, I'm gonna be talking to myself for an hour, I was bummed. But then you joined in and this hour went by so fast. It was crazy. And truly, you are one of the first educators in Texas to take advantage of these opportunities.
Really?
I know, isn't that crazy? There are so many of these opportunities that are going to be available in the coming days, weeks, months, literally throughout the rest of 2021. So I encourage you, if you want to have some more of these conversations with other people, spread the word, get people there. And it's easy, right? This was payment free. And
Yeah, it really was.
yeah, because you're brilliant and you just just gave me so many ideas and thoughts to share. I just threw in the chat. If you could at some point, this is one of the requirements. I don't know if it's a Texas thing or where it comes from, but it's a link to a survey that I was told to share. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a couple of minutes at some point, I don't even know how many questions are there. I don't know what it's asking. I don't have a clue. But
Gotcha.
if you wouldn't mind completing that, if and when it is convenient to you, the information that you need for the survey, I think you need to know my name, maybe. I don't know what information you need, but I've got the topic on student collaboration in a virtual environment. My name is, if you need that, is on the screen. So take what you can, spread the word that we are invading Texas because Texas is a great place to be, right? You told me the weather is beautiful. The people are
It's like
nice.
73. So I was
Yes.
really thinking about your -3, and it's like I would at least send you at least 50 degrees that we have, because
I will
it's like
take it.
73 here today.
Oh, and you probably had a jacket on at some point, didn't you?
The whole time I was actually in
See?
the office. Yes.
There you go. And yeah, one of these days.
Can
one of these
you
days.
put back up your slide that gives me all of your contact?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let me do that. Let me just go back in time here. We're going to be besties now.
I'm definitely gonna reach out to you.
You got it. Whoop, I just passed it. There you go. Yeah, feel free to take a screenshot of that if you need to. Whatever you need to do, so we can continue to connect.
Seeing your desktop screen.
Oh, I doing the wrong share. I am so sorry. Let me
That's
do this
okay.
again. You're
Trust
just been
me.
staring at me the whole time. Here I am thinking that
It's
I'm
quite
showing you all the
okay.
slides you need to see, and
I was seeing the slides, so you were fine.
can you see it now?
Okay. Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Not a problem. Yeah, because literally, even the same things that we were talking about, I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues earlier because I had the audacity to actually, I'm attempting doctoral school. And I'm like, my professor sucks.